schools, Emily Castillo Leon of Ethos Classical, an amazing elementary school here in Atlanta. And so she's going to start us off. Emily, why don't you just share briefly with us just a little bit about who you are? And I would especially love to hear like why you decided to start the school.
Yeah, for sure. Welcome, folks. Thank you so much for letting me join you all today. I'm a huge fan of the Ed Chat and it's an honor to be part of this. So I am the founder and head of school of Ethos Classical. It's a truly, we say, a very magical elementary school located in East Point, Atlanta. If you are in the area and looking to enroll anyone, we are currently enrolling kindergarten, first and fourth grade scholars. We are in our founding year. And so why Ethos Classical, why an elementary school? So I actually started my career as a secondary high school English teacher, and then went into school leadership, founding a high school as an assistant principal that was a really high performing KIPP school in Nashville, and got to see the tremendous impact that a really great high school has for scholars. But for so many of our scholars, it was still a question of what their options would be when they graduated because of a pretty fragmented elementary experience. And then got really passionate about the impact of elementary education on changing life opportunities. And so from that, the vision for Ethos Classical was born. I was a Building Excellence Schools Fellow. Back in 2015, it actually took a number of years to get Ethos started with some pretty dense political waters that we waded through. But so happy to be here in such an interesting first year with all that's happening right now.
Yay, awesome. All right, we're so excited to have you here. So I have a few questions, and let's just say good morning to the folks who are joining in. Hey, Miss Brock, thanks for joining us this morning. Let's see, tell us where you are logging in from and what your role is. We'd love to see who's joining us. I know this week we've had some school leaders, we've had some teachers, we've had APs, we've had parents, so definitely let us know as we're going through this. I guess let's start with the first thing. Obviously, we all know we're in this COVID situation. We're now 3 weeks in. And Emily, I spoke to you, I think it was last week or the week before, and would love to hear I know you did some pretty amazing things with such a quick turnaround and experience some pretty fast. Can you talk a little bit about just that whole transition briefly of like how, you got the news, what did you all do? What kind of results have you gotten? And then interested in hearing a little bit about like what successes have you all seen right now and what are some of the challenges? And then we'll also take questions and comments from people as well on your experience. Anyone weighing in, I'll just let you know that they're weighing in.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think this has been a wild ride that I could have never predicted in a founding year. I think in all the preparation as a school leader that you do for all of the challenges that might come your way, closing a school for 2 months was never one of them that comes on the list. So this has been definitely a test of leadership. I do think we had the gift of really being able to anticipate that this was coming. So that really helped. I've been following the news and was able to kind of prepare myself mentally and my leadership team that, hey, like this is gonna happen. So when it did come that the school would be closed kind of indefinitely, it was not a surprise to us at all. And so we developed kind of rudimentary plans of how we were going to jump into it, into supporting our scholars. To me and to our team, the most important thing is that our scholars are our scholars and we are responsible for their outcomes. So their learning is on us, whether it is in the school building or in their homes or whatever. When they come back in August, it is our job to teach and support them.
Step in really quick and name something. Like I love how you have really described this like sense of ownership, not for you as a school leader, but the way your entire team, your teachers also took ownership over every student's learning, even regardless of what was happening externally. And I don't know if that resonates with anyone else out there, but thank you for naming that. Kudos to you and your team for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's, I explained to my team, I had to check myself, I think mentally too. At first I was like, distance learning cannot work in elementary school, especially with kindergarten. Like, how is this going to happen? And then I had to check myself and really think through, like, as a leader, my job is to hold expectations, and people will meet the expectations that we hold. And so I had to go, okay, you're right, Emily, they won't learn anything if you don't expect them to. But if you really think through a system and set the expectation that like, yep, learning is going to happen even in this unusual time, it will. And so the actual concretely what we've done is that we wanted to have a system that was predictable and routine for our scholars. We know that children really thrive when they have predictable structures and routines and content that's in front of them. We wanted it to still be joyful and fun so that they were engaging with their teachers. And we wanted it to be low lift for families to actually execute against, as low lift as possible. And so what we do, our system is that every Monday we release a whole set of all content videos. We have a Google distance learning site. So every subject for every day has a video that is aligned to work that scholars get in a distance learning packet. Families pick up the packets from 7:45 until 2 on Mondays, or they can just download those directly from home, whichever works for them. We're just working to kind of balance the different needs of families who have printers at home, some who need to get the materials.
That's awesome. I want to name that really quick, you all. So what Emily has named that they have done, and I know a lot of school leaders out there have been like trying to balance, well, how do we serve? So we may not have technology for everyone. So how do we even differentiate for our families? And it sounds like you all have figured out a plan on Mondays from this time frame. We're handing out packets. Are you all still doing that even now?
Even now, so families can come in, yeah. And then, but you can download them digitally too. So this is just for families who don't have access to printers.
That's awesome. So there's also some families who prefer, you know, they have the technology, they can do it from home, and they have the option of downloading all of their students' materials from this website. What we'll do is we'll also copy and paste that website and put it onto your post that is on our main feed on Instagram. So if any of you want to take a look at that as a resource, we'll put that on there as well.
Awesome. And I would totally encourage it. Our team has blown me away with the work that they've done with their videos. They transitioned so seamlessly, but we kind of phased in order of operations of how we were approaching developing our distance learning program. The first layer being just for the first week, it was a guided packet. We didn't have videos yet. The second week was a guided packet plus videos. The third week was a guided packet plus the instructional videos plus conferencing. So kind of focusing in on getting each piece of it right and building a program as we go. It's been
there because I know there's also been a lot of questions this week in teacher groups, principals also really, there are people on like all parts of the spectrum in education right now. Some people have instruction figured out. Some folks are like, and they're kind of like just frozen, right? So my question is around, you mentioned the first week you had the packet videos, so you scaled this out, right?
correct.
The second week, it sounds like you had the packet, the videos, and then.
So the first week was just the packet. The second week was packet and videos. So it gave our teachers time to build their kind of videos. It is a whole new skill set. And then the third week was packet videos and conferencing. So this week is that's what that looks like.
Cool. So question around the conferencing. So how does that work for your team? And I also believe you mentioned that your team was being really strategic around the RTI process as well.
Yeah, for sure. So the conferencing piece of it looks like we have all of our scholars, we actually divided them. We have associate teachers who support in classrooms and our lead teachers, as well as our art teacher, our special education teacher. We made little caseloads for every single teacher in the building. So they have around 10 scholars and families that they're responsible for reaching out to and connecting with. So that was the first thing that was helpful. It's not falling all on the lead classroom teacher. Everybody has a group that they're responsible for. And then for families that they are having difficulty getting in touch with, they ping those to leadership, and we loop in to that. Our director of curriculum instruction, Shamar Knight Justice, has been incredible in supporting our teachers and making sure that they're really getting in touch with everyone, and then just continuing to remind our families. I mean, our teachers, when they are having trouble getting in touch with families, it's not a lack of desire. It is truly, there are so many logistical things happening with families, and so encouraging our teachers to be very persistent to continue getting in touch with them. So that is, I think, the way we've approached conferencing. We're actually doing a professional development next week after spring break to really make sure that those are high impact times for our team as well. And then for our RTI process, our Director of Scholar and Family Supports, Ms. Gambrell, has done an amazing job. So we have a full RTI process. Our special education teacher and our art teacher actually moved to be the RTI content leads, and are creating, they're creating targeted instructional videos. I would say that one real strength of our distance learning program is how the instruction is tailored to levels. So every week we have 3 different packets per grade, a pink, blue, green, that aligns to their guided reading as well. And there are different videos that go with that. And then with RTI, they have they get an additional RTI packet, as well as additional RTI videos. And then the scholars who are in RTI, they are on the caseload of our RTI team for conferences and follow-up.
Gotcha. Wow. Good morning, Principal Spirit. And E. Johnson, good morning. So we have, again, Emily Castillo. She's the founder and head of schools at Ethos Classical here in Atlanta. She has just shared a few things of just how her staff has transitioned into full, virtual or distance learning. And she talked about the process of how she scaled that out. If you missed that, this will be up for the next 24 hours, so feel free to go back. But also, she talked a little bit about her RTI and how she repurposed her associate teachers, and she really is like utilizing her entire staff. It sounds like each teacher has a caseload of 10 students that they're responsible for. I know there are teachers who are like, I have 100 students, and and I think everyone is just trying to figure it out. And I know a lot of leaders out there are also figuring that out. I also heard you say that you guys are taking your spring break next week.
We are, yes.
Attorney, great for you guys. I'm sure you need it. I'm sure your teachers need it. I know that there are a lot of New York City schools and schools up north that's spring break did get canceled. And so, they're working through that. And this brings me to the next thing is, and we had a little bit of a conversation around one of your challenges. But one of the things is one of the big questions that is coming up a lot is how are we promoting and supporting the emotional well-being of our leaders, of our teachers, and of our students. So feel free to speak to any of those and what you all have done. I know a lot of folks have also been trying to figure out, both inside of education and outside of education, how do we continue to keep the morale up, the J factor? How can we be really intentional about still building a strong culture? So I would love for you to speak on any of those that most resonate with you. Good morning. Tell us.
They all resonate.
And your role as well. Sorry. Go ahead.
Great. So I think my job is, my primary role of my job as head of school is like team and staff culture and building that and keeping it tight and right. So tried to create as much as possible a sense of normalcy, even if it's in a virtual space. So every morning, I'm trying to maximize the number of live face-to-face touch points that we have as a team. And so every morning we have a morning huddle at 8:30 in the morning, which is similar to what we do at school. Ours is much earlier in the normal school day, but at 8:30, we do a team builder kind of icebreaker activity. Then we do a thing called a text talk. So right now we're reading the 17 qualities of a great teammate, and read a chapter from that, and then have a discussion around it. Then we move into just create a thing we call the daily digest, where each team lead, so our director of curriculum instruction, our director of scholar and family supports, and then our operations team lays out a suggested schedule for the day with the outcomes that every team is responsible for, just so folks feel like, oh, we've got clarity, we've got focus, we know what's going on. Awesome. So that is a thing that we do. And then every Friday we still have Friday PD, where we do our kind of shout outs and team building, and then focus in on a specific skill that we're working to build. So that has been helpful for us as well. Something super silly, but that is fun, and I think is keeping our team connected, is every day at lunch we like what's for lunch, and people take pictures of what they're eating, what they're doing. So it's like just a fun way to connect. We're on Slack, so there's a lot of conversation that's happening back and forth. And then one thing that I do that's a normal thing that happens every trimester, I do a thing called a tank check with every single staff member, just talking through. Say that again.
What's it called again?
a tank check where I'm like, how full is your tank? But this happens every trimester, and they ended up happening the week that we went into distance learning as well. So I had a 30-minute one-on-one with every team member on my team, getting a sense of like, how are you feeling? What do you need? How can I support you? Which helped to give me a lot of insight into who was kind of feeling the most, the most burn, and was able to support them. So those are a few things I've also done.
Question: are those one-on-one meetings, the tank checks?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. Let me just plug in right here for any leaders who are on here. If you have not strategized or prioritized having these one-on-one meetings with your staff, and it just depends on how large your staff is, but if you manage leaders and they manage folks, it is really, really important to have those one-on-one checks with people. I even, Emily, just what you're doing, even outside of education. I was just coaching a leader who's in healthcare, and we were talking about even now with his people that he manages, his direct reports, his staff, that just how critical those moments are to just check in. How are you feeling? I heard you say, how are you feeling? What do you need? Kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So good morning, Dr. Harrison. And so that's such a great nugget for so many of us to walk away with, because in this time, it's so easy to forget things like that because for some folks, there's just so much happening. So I appreciate you sharing that. Is there anything, Emily, that you all, even as a school leader, something that you're still grappling with or trying to figure out, a challenge maybe that your team is trying to work through right now?
Absolutely. I think the number one thing is, I think creating adult culture in a virtual space is a lot easier than creating and maintaining scholar culture. So that is something that we're trying to think through. We took our first hit and try at it this week with a virtual spirit week, which has engaged some of our families, certainly. So today is Thankful Thursday, actually, for us too. That has been helpful for some, but I would say that we're probably still hitting with that probably 20-25% of our families. So just thinking about how are we building and bringing the joy that scholars experience in learning in our schoolhouse? How do we bring that to them at home as well? One thing that we're working on is that we got a grant for some additional emergency distance learning supplies. And so for every scholar after spring break, they'll be going home with 10 books that were tailored to their level and to their interests. So that's one way that we're trying. All of this is kind of experimental. We don't know what the impact will be, but that is one thing. It's just, how do we make scholars feel seen and known and recognized, and still bringing the joy that they experience every day? So that is the question that we're working on. We'd love anybody's insights if they have experience with it.
Yeah, so I'll throw this question out there, and we're going to actually get ready to wrap up here as well. So we would love for you to share anything that your staff is doing around culture, to build culture, to keep the J factor up. I definitely have heard of the Spirit Weeks working. I've also seen yesterday, actually, Hernisha Dukes, who is executive director of New Schools for New Orleans. She spoke yesterday, and she was sharing how there are some schools who do house meetings or grade level meetings with all the kids. They put music, they do little dance parties. And I think there's just something to be said when even little kids get to like just see others on there and connect in some kind of way. So little things like that. And feel free to comment on Emily's live at chat banner on our feed as well. Emily, is there anything else that you want to leave us with as we wrap up our live ed chat?
No other things other than I am so eager to learn from the folks on this chat as well. I think that this is such a collaborative time across all schools and learning from each other. So just excited to see what we're able to do. And so honestly, so truly proud of the education community and the work that we've done in such a wild time.
Yes, I love that. I just continue to remind people that I believe that school leaders, teachers are to me, the most resilient people, the most flexible and adaptable people. I mean, we are, and it's something that we don't talk about, right? Because we just do what we do every day. We show up for our kids. But I just want to elevate the fact that teachers are constantly looking at their practice, looking to improve their practice, trying to brainstorm, problem solve. And so kudos to you, Emily. Kudos to your team. I know, are you guys still enrolling for next year? Do you guys have your waiting list?
Yeah, we have a wait list, but I encourage all of you to jump on. We had our lottery actually the Wednesday before school closed down, but we do have a wait list, but we would love as many families. There's always transitioning happen. So if you are interested, please apply online.
Yes, awesome. And you can contact Emily at Ethos Classical on their IG page. You can DM them. Or is that the best way to contact you, or is there another way?
That's fine. Yeah, you could do that or through our website, www.ethosclassical.org. And there's a lot of information on there as well. Well, thank you. This was a huge honor, and I appreciate you a ton. Thank you so much.
Shining. I'm your biggest fan, just from here. But yeah.
Well, when we start up school, you need to come visit.
I know.